Good morning. Good morning. Alright, and we are live. We are live. Alright. So, remembering the topics that we spoke about last, there's actually some other very important lines. I hope that you picked up on those about the unity of man with Allah, okay? How every nation views Allah differently, and that's not a bad thing. That's just how the life goes, okay? That's how our lives are structured. God purposely had divided us into nations, not necessarily to go ahead and disagree with one another, just so we can offer a very well-rounded perspective when eventually we all become one again. So it's actually a very beautiful purpose and a beautiful thing that is existing within the unity. And while we are temporarily separated now, it makes for a beautiful mosaic and a beautiful picture when everything comes together. So not trying to ignore what the other points, but there is the topic of sacrifice, which 'tis the season, right, for sacrifice, for giving something up that is important to us, for the well-being of others, more importantly, serving others, serving our fellow people here on this planet is crucial. So we're going to hold on to that notion because God speaks on that specifically. And I am enthralled and excited that there is these congruencies that we're noticing between both of the books. It might seem like careful planning on my part, but I tell you, when it was arbitrarily decided that I was going to be reading from this book, it was suggested from me, and I just go with the whim of spirit and the whim of emotion that I have. So it's cool to see the similarities and the parallels, right, between both books and how they're agreeing with each other and talking to each other. So let's go ahead and begin with this quote here. It says, "I shall be but a short time tonight. I have seldom spoken with greater regret, for my lips are not yet unsealed. Were these troubles over, I would make a case, and I guarantee that not a man would go in to lobby against us." All right, so this is an interesting one. We've talked about this before, and I'm trying to recall what the context was when we were reading it last. Troubles. I think it was something like battling troubling times, right? Kind of a stirring in the heart of men, right? A stir, a uncomfortability that somebody was experiencing. But this, if we look at the date, and then especially this title here, it says 10th December 1935. Watch it be the 10th today. That's so funny. I was looking up the quote, right? And then I found, the source is Speech on Abyssinian Crisis. Speech on Abyssinian Crisis. Abyssinian. So this was actually a crisis or a conflict between Italy and Ethiopia during this time. So Italy was invading Ethiopia, and finally Mr. Stanley Baldwin, a leader of I think he was English, like an English prime minister or something. Now I have to look it up. Sorry, you guys, I'm not going to ramble too much, but just so we have a good picture of what's going on. Former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So he makes this statement and is really admitting and coming to knowledge of the fact that Italy is bothering Ethiopia. And at this time, we have Haile Selassie, ruler of Ethiopia. He was eventually exported. Okay, he was eventually exported. That's terrible. Not exported. He was eventually, what do they call it when you're casted out of Ethiopia? Doesn't matter. Haile Selassie, a great revered, great leader of Ethiopia, had to leave Ethiopia, or they called it Abyssinian, at this time due to all the conflict. Mussolini was in Italy. There was a constant battle between these two. It seemed constant, but Italy was just occupying this territory, right, in Ethiopia, and it was a lot of problems. Okay, it was a lot of problems. Finally, we have the League of Nations deciding, with Stanley Baldwin as a part of it, deciding that, Italy is the problem, it's not Ethiopia. And it's obvious to us now because Italy was the one infringing upon the land of Ethiopia. So it was a big issue here, and people were trying to decide, who's in the right and who's in the wrong. But it's very clear because Italy was the one infringing upon the land of Ethiopia to begin with. So it's really a no-brainer of what the issue was. But now this Stanley Baldwin is making a speech and a declaration on this topic. So why is this important? Why does this relate to us, other than the fact that today is December 10th? I swear, like I'm telling you guys, when I don't plan these things, I don't plan them. It just happens, and we are grateful and we are excited to see the parallels, as I had mentioned. And I didn't even realize this because I put the quote together this morning. Sorry, just charging. I put the quote together this morning with the reading, hence why I'm a little bit jumbled up on this historical fact, because I had just gone through some articles on it this morning. Charge. Come here, a little wild thing. This guy is being wild. Okay, why are you dusty? Anyways, why is this important to what we're reading about? We're talking about troubling times, feeling troubled in the hearts of men, and we are also discussing a time when boundaries were transgressed. Boundaries were transgressed, okay? People were taking things in and out of context in terms of the people of Israel. So God is bringing up, this is what stood out to me, right? Were these troubles over, I would make a case. So God himself is actually speaking once we get to Psalm 50. And he's making this case. He's bringing his grievances to Israel regarding sacrifice, actually. And we're also going to be discussing the importance of human life and how that is reflected. So we've talked about a little bit the outcomes of murder or death, what comes out of it, and how difficult it is to replace or rectify the death of a good human soul, a good person, and bad, quote unquote, bad people as well, right? Any human life, doesn't matter, good, bad, how difficult it is to rectify and to restore balance to the world and restore balance to a nation once something like that takes place. So I know we're a bit all over the place, but this is what we're going to read today. Starting out with Psalms book 2, starting in chapter 42. Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? Put your hope in God, for I will yet praise him, my Savior and my God. Deep calls to deep, in the roar of your waterfalls. All your waves and breakers have swept over me. Okay, so this is giving us the feeling of overwhelm. Okay, David is feeling overwhelmed with everything that is going on in his locale. Okay, overwhelmed. And I was feeling a bit like this yesterday too, towards the end of the day. He continues, I put no trust in my bow. My sword does not bring me victory, but you give us victory over our enemies. You put our adversaries to shame. All this came upon us, though we had not forgotten you. We had not been false to your covenant. You love righteousness and hate wickedness. Therefore God, your God, has set you above your companions by anointing you with the oil of joy. I will perpetuate your memory through all generations. Therefore the nations will praise you forever and ever. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. For God is the King of all the earth. Sing to him a psalm of praise. Sorry, little cat. Sing to him a psalm of praise. When the kings joined forces, when they advanced together, you destroyed them like ships of Tarshish, shattered by an east wind. No one can redeem the life of another, or give to God a ransom for them. The ransom for life is costly. No payment is ever enough. So I'll pause right here for just a quick second, because we talked about the effect of killing and murder and things like that. Souls have to be replenished and replaced by even more than what was lost. So this is why a payment of something of value, like we think of money, right? But even resources, like precious stones, and say like an animal sacrifice, right? An animal sacrifice. Nothing that we as humans could assign value to and offer up as a sacrifice to God is ever enough to cover the loss of a life. Okay? And we cannot barter with God. We cannot barter with God to go ahead and extend our lives or our time that is predestined on this earth. Our birth date is written, of course, and then we also have our expiration or end date is written. Okay, there's nothing that could extend or push forward or push back that timeline. It is predestined. So again, no amount of money could control that. We could not give God a ransom, sacrifice, anything like that for what is already predestined. So this is where that's coming in. It's anyways, I've talked about it, like I said, this around the same time, about 2 or 3 years ago, this part here, without knowing that's what I was speaking of. But anyways, do not be overawed when others grow rich, when the splendor of their houses increases, for they will take nothing with them when they die. Their splendor will not descend with them. The mighty one, God, the Lord, speaks and summons the earth from the rising of the sun to where it sets. Listen, my people, and I will speak. I will testify against you, Israel. I am God, your God. I bring no charges against you concerning your sacrifices or concerning your burnt offerings, which are ever before me. So he comes and he's being honest with the people. He's saying, you're not wrong for offering these things. These are actually things that I didn't necessarily command, but I suggested, I would say, because it's not written in the 10 Commandments that we know today for good reason. And it was something that was instructed, right, to Moses to let the priests do. So he's bringing no charges against the people for listening to him at that time. Keep in mind, too, this time, Israelites were going through a lot of trauma and things like that. Still, to this day. But I still want to reiterate, he's not bringing anything against the people for doing what they did. It was something that was divine instruction. Although he's saying there are other ways, and when you're doing your sacrifices, when you're doing any holy ritual, don't just make it a habit. Make it something that you are thinking of the Lord always. Don't just do it just to do it and think that that's it. It has to be with the intention and with the thought of the Lord behind it, or else, it's pointless to him, and it is a waste, and it is something that shakes the sword of life in its sheath. So, with intention, this is what God is trying to make clear to the people. He says, I have no need of a bull from your stall, or of goats from your pens, for every animal of the forest is mine, and the cattle on 1,000 hills. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world is mine and all that is in it. Seems very obvious to us today, okay? Obviously, right? Everything belongs to the Lord, so why does it even make sense to do these things? And again, we've talked about it. It's to give up something important to us. To actually, it's a sacrifice for us. That's what it's for. The intention is for us. And then also to please the Lord through our humility and through the letting go of something that is important to us. That is the significance. And I won't even really go into it because it's just utterly ridiculous, but there are some who will argue that the Elohim, right, Elohim, the extraterrestrials, the people who control the planet, right, are fueled with the blood of animals and fueled with all of this blood of humans and fueled with violence and things like that, and that's what energizes them and powers them. So that's very like a sci-fi thought, okay? And while it might be valid in some degree, I'm just trying to think of like where the balance comes in, right? It's just not, this is what God is saying. He's like, I have no need. It's not something that I need to fuel me, okay? If I was really hungry, if I wanted a snack, you are not the person that I would go to, okay? I would not ask of you to feed me, okay? So he's just making this very, very clear. I digress. He continues though. But to the wicked person, God says, you hate my instruction and cast my words behind you. When you did these things, I kept silent. You thought I was exactly like you. Consider this, you who forget, or I will tear you to pieces with no one to rescue you. Consider this, you who forget God. I will tear you to pieces with no one to rescue you. Those who sacrifice thank offerings honor me, and to the blameless I will show my salvation. All right, so he's making it very, very clear. Do not disregard me. Do not disregard my instruction. All right, do not forget me in anything you do. Do not forget that I'm here. Okay, I'm with you. I'm experiencing with you, but I'm also above and beyond anything that you could, consider me like. So people are becoming too. I don't want to say this. You thought I was exactly like you, when the the casualness, right? The casualness takes place. Oh, prayer's not that important. This is not that important. People become very casual with their relationship, like too casual, thinking that God was exactly like you and that he understands, which he does. He definitely does understand, but he is not exactly like you, so he deserves a form of worship that is actually uncomfortable for you, and that does demand you to give something of yourself, whether that be time, focus, attention. It really, really demands something of you. Then, of course, looking at things from Jesus's perspective, to go ahead and serve other people. We do understand, hearing Jesus talk and hearing God talk, how it is different directions that kind of loop around and be in the middle in the ways that they go about things. So understanding the different entities, and like Jesus had mentioned, the different ways that God is viewed. I'm going off on about a billion tangents here, but he's very aggressive, and I do kind of like this aggressive part of God. Okay, consider this, you who forget God, or I will tear you to pieces with no one to rescue you. Also thinking, it reminds me of like the division of the soul, the division of the spirit, how once the spirit once the soul passes away, right, he can quite literally tear you into fragments, okay, where the original soul is no more, and it joins with other pieces from the spirit and becomes something brand new. Also, there is a darker message to that, tear you to pieces with no one to rescue you. We're thinking the worst of the worst as well. But he's saying the people who offer their thanks sacrifices, who give up some of what's important to them for me, it shows honor, and it is good. God is just saying, don't just do the ritual to do the ritual and think you're good. Make sure you are actually honoring me when you do these things. And to the blameless, I will show my salvation. So So this part really got to me and got me thinking, just because we had just read that. Give me a sec. Yes, but can you wait a few minutes? Let me just look up this in a moment. Hold on. I will not keep you much longer. Let's do this. Okay, hey baby, I need to finish this real quick and then I will. Okay. Anyways, this verse, Psalm 50:23, we just discussed, right? How the God actually saves the broken. You don't need to be perfect, because blameless can be seen as another way of saying perfect, to be saved. Although it is in our best interest to become the most perfected before Him in the ways that we see fit and then also God sees fit. So in this section, there are other translations to this specific verse, which does not translate to being perfect or being blameless, because we had just argued that you don't need to be completely blameless or completely perfect to be saved. So if you look at any other version of the Bible, it will say something different, which is very interesting. And it does beg us to go ahead and explore other ways that all of these verses are phrased, because I promise you everything will be using different language. Every different translation will be saying things a little bit different. So maybe if we don't relate, this is the New International Version, if we don't relate to this New International Version, we would relate better with another Bible or another way that things are written, interestingly enough. But I can't find the different verses. So we're just going to leave. I know like Bible Gateway is going to have everything, but I am utmost distracted at this point. I apologize. I will see you guys in just tomorrow. Just a little bit. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I apologize for the ramble jumbleness. Talk to you in a second. In a day, not a second, but yes.